Our last session of the day is a crucial one, as we will look at how leaders can measure the social and environmental impact they're having through their work. And we've got a brilliant panel joining from around the world to discuss it. Our moderator for the session is Shiv Kumar, co-founder of the Catalyst Group, and he'll be joined again by 4 MB100 winners this year. Amy Clarke, the Chief Impact Officer of Tribe Impact Capital, Ashok Shah, Group CEO of APA Apollo Group, Juliet Namujju, founder and CEO of Kimuli Fashionability, and Nathalia Arcuri, the founder and CEO of Poupe. So Shiv, over to you.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Good to have you. This is the final session, and glad you could join us all. Impact is a much used, misused, and cliche term, right? But super important. I just want to show you. Even my shower gel shows impact, right? And my mouth freshener. I don't know whether you're able to read this, but shows impact, right? But it's more than that. And the kind of impact we are talking about is serious impact in people's lives and in the planet and in the animal life. Measuring it has never been an easy task. And why is it so hard? I think it's hard because defining impact and a theory around impact, the time it takes to measure it, the resources required and capacities required are all not to be underestimated. And my fellow panelists will tell you that. We have 4 great business leaders with several awards to their credit today in the panel. I'm very happy to welcome Amy Clarke from Tribe Impact Capital, Ashok Shah from AP Apollo Group from Kenya, Juliet Namujju from the Kimuli Fashionability, and Nathalia Arcuri from Poupe, 4 of my fellow colleagues who are going to be sharing with us how they measure impact, what challenges we face, and how we can learn from each other. Amy, I'm going to turn to you first. And sorry, before I get to Amy, we're going to have last 10 minutes for Q&A, but don't worry to wait till the last 10 minutes. Please shoot your questions to the great panelists, and I will ensure that your questions are in. And so you use the chat function, keep them coming our way. And I'm going to start off with Amy. Amy, if you can tell me under a minute about Tribe Capital, such an interesting organization where you made impact the core of your business. Could you tell us why do you measure impact and how do you go about it?
Thank you, Shiv, and thank you to Tom and the team for the invite. And Shiv, can I just say as well, given that you've just shared your shower gel and your mints, I'm really disappointed I can't smell you now because I imagine you smell amazing. Tribe Impact Capital is a wealth manager based in London, and we manage wealth for wealth owners and wealth holders. So they could be private clients, they can be charities, they can also be businesses as well. And everything that we do, all of that capital that we have under management is geared towards delivering the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the Paris Climate Accord, more latterly, the Glasgow Climate Pact as well. So every single dollar, euro, and pound is leveraged to create the change in society that creates the space where everyone and everything can thrive.
Great. And what is impact for you, Amy, in terms of your organization's definition of it?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. I often use the analogy between the weather and the climate, between performance and impact. In that impact happens over sometimes it can happen over many months, more often than not when we're talking about the kind of systemic impact that we're trying to deliver, especially with these issues, the Sustainable Development Goals, that's over many years. Performance can happen on a daily basis, hourly basis, monthly basis. And a lot of the measures of success that are out there at the moment aren't actually impact measures. These are performance measures. They're solitary measures of output. You know, you give me £1, Shiv, I go and invest it in a business that potentially creates access to, 5 children for reading. And that's what I do. That's an output measure. That doesn't tell me whether the quality of the intervention was good, what the intervention then led to, so the outcomes of those children getting access to education, what that has created, and then also ultimately the impact and the value that creates more broadly to society. As well. So we're always very, very clear when we're talking about impacts. that this is multi-year investments where you're looking at trend analysis, and then you're trying to use some of the principles, for example, around social return on investment to really get behind those figures and say, okay, 50,000 medical devices have been provided. Is that good? Is it bad? How do we contextualize it? How do we add meaning to that? So we work really hard to do that. And it's as everyone on this call, the panelists and everyone listening in will know, it's very, very difficult.
Right. And what do you do well in that, Amy, in terms of measuring impact?
Yes, so there are certain measures of impact for us because we invest in public markets and in private markets. So we invest across all asset classes. There are certain measures that are becoming more uniform. And I think performance on things, for example, like climate change, so carbon performance, carbon-related performance becomes a lot easier to A, get the data, and then B, to be able to extrapolate from that. Is this business going to be able to continue to deliver the products and services whilst keeping us within that 1.5 degree warming threshold? We can do things like that now. It's incredible, the data that is available for us to be able to do that. So we do that really well. There's always room for improvement. All of the methodologies are changing at the moment, but that's one area that we've really focused on, because for us, investing in public markets, it's really important that we ensure that those investments are driving the change on this massive existential issue that our clients expect us to. A lot of other metrics aren't yet at that level. We're starting to see things come through, but they're not quite there yet. So we have to work really, really hard with the data that we've got to try and extrapolate sometimes what we think is happening. But even in there, there be lie demons and devils when you try and extrapolate a story from a data set. So it's challenging. We do as much as we can with the data that we've got, but we are very clear with our clients that much of the data that we put in front of them is performance data, not impact data.
Right. But I'm going to come back to you, Amy, on this around impact counting, which is performance measures versus, impact measurement. And it's a great point that you make. Before I move to Ashok, Amy, your organization seeks and funds and promotes organizations which create impact. And I'm going to segue into Ashok, who heads a group of organizations called the AP Apollo Group in Africa. And Ashok, such a diverse portfolio, small farmers, insurance, and your CSR work relating to building dams. Could you tell us, how do you define and measure impact?
Well, as AP Apollo Group, our main business is really insuring the traditional insurances. We insure the brick and mortars, the assets, large buildings and large institutions in this country. But one of the things that we decided a few years ago was that we wanted to go into inclusive insurance, micro-insurance, because Kenya, basically the contribution of insurance is very, very limited. We only have 2.14% of our GDP comes from insurance. So there is a large market out there for insurance, but the problem is awareness. So we decided that we wanted to insure the farmers and also the pastoralists in Kenya. Now, the farmers and the pastoralists are not aware of insurance at all. There is very little awareness of insurance, and they do not believe in insurance because when they pay for something, they believe that there must be something back that they should get. Insurance is intangible. So one of the things that we face is, how do we get to the farmer? How do we get to insure them? So there are two ways we do it. One way is that we go out into the marketplace and sell to the farmers directly, get them to buy the insurance covers. The other one is through aggregators. So our impact is measured on how many farmers can we insure year on year, the number of the farmers that are increased by the covers that we give them. The other measure that we do is, and we do it through the aggregators, is that the aggregators are able to increase the number of farmers the aggregators normally give them input covers, input finance, and they want that input finance to be insured. So what happens is that they will provide the input finance and we will provide the insurance covers. So in case there is a claim, there is not enough rainfall, then we would be paying out to the farmers. And the impact that we measure is that the increase in the credit to the farmers by the impact financiers, then they give better inputs, and the increase in production that the farmers will get. The increase in production that the farmers would get would mean that they have an improved income. So those are the areas that basically we would rely on the measuring the impact. So year on year, when we started about 6 years ago, we were not insuring many farmers. Now we are coming up to about 1.5 million farmers that are being insured. But the idea is that we should be increasing the number of farmers to Kenya's economy depends. 70% of Kenya's workforce works on the land. So we would like to see how many of them we can insure, increasing our impact.
Right. No, this is fascinating. Amy, your point on performance, if I were to connect to what Ashok is mentioning, the number of farmers that you insure, Ashok, would be more a performance metric, but their increase in productivity, their increase in income is what you're looking at as impact. Am I right?
Yes, exactly. That's the outcome from having been able to kind of underpin their livelihoods with an insurance product. They're able to then go and do X, Y, and Z. That's the outcome. And then the impact would be, and by doing that, it has led to this. And so Ashok's just beautifully actually articulated, the challenges around how we work with data and how we extract the key messages.
Right. Absolutely. Ashok, I'm going to park a question with you, not to answer, but, we can come back to it, which is, in your industry, is counterfactual important? For example, if you take a farmer, two farmers of similar size and, geographical location, one has insurance of yours and one doesn't. And, when they both are hit by an unforeseen circumstance, the person insured vis-a-vis the person not insured is another way to measure impact. I'll just park that with you. I want to come back. And Juliet, wonderful to see your video. Such lovely clothing that you make. And, it would have been a pity if your video was not on. Thank you so much for joining us, Juliet. And you're such an award-winning, and a career which is so fantastic that you have taken and to showcase what you can do with plastic. Could you tell us what's impact for you? And I know you employ people who are differently abled. You produce clothes which are made out of recycled material. Tell us what's important to you when you talk about impact.
Oh, thank you so much for this great opportunity. And what's very important for me when we talk about impact, it's very important for us to always track of what we are doing and know exactly where we are going. So for example, us in Kimuli Fashionability, when you look at the upcycling of plastic waste, if you don't always track the amount of plastic waste that you've collected, how many tailors have produced, how many people you've impacted or trained, for sure you can't really know exactly what you're doing, because you would want to know at least for the last month, how many kilograms did you upcycle. They're the ones that are going to give you the right number the next month for you to upcycle. And another thing, it's also another way to really be realistic to people who are really investing in you, people who are really donating to your customers. People always want to invest. These days, people want to invest into things that are creating impact, businesses that are really creating impact. So if you really have impact, it's always good to know where you're going and always know how you're moving with what you're doing. So it will really help you to even achieve more into the vision that you want to achieve in the next years, and also set up your goals very well.
Right, right. Juliet, so when you upcycle your material, you are avoiding that same plastic going into waterways or into the soil or eventually into oceans, right? And that's what you're doing in terms of upcycling, is not just making it useful, but actually stopping the negative impact. Do you also measure the impact on the people who work with you, because they come from a specific community? Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, we do measure the impact of the beneficiaries that we have empowered. Why? We really want to really see that their lives are impacted, because we want always to see the outcomes of these people. For example, we can set a goal and we say that maybe in 2022, we want to train over 500 disabled persons across rural areas in Uganda. And then out of the trained beneficiaries, what are the outcomes? So the outcomes may be, we have, out of the 500, we managed to employ over 200. So out of the 200, after like in 8 months, the 200, at least over, let me say 50 disabled tailors managed to create their own employment out of the salaries that they have earned from Kimuli Fashionability. So the other number of people who have not created their own employment, you sit back because they aren't yet measured well. You haven't yet seen the outcome. So you sit down and check yourselves, what's really the problem? Maybe their challenge, the skills that you taught them, maybe they weren't so passionate, or maybe some of them, they were slow learners. So you go back, find out their challenges, and then impact them more and more. And also find strategies on how they can also achieve, like the other people, what they have achieved. And at least at the end of the year, if you say that at the end of 2021 to create an impact of 500 empowered disabled persons, it really helps you to see that they have really achieved their goals and can really create their own income.
Right. Wonderful. Wonderful. Both environmental as well as the people impact. Juliet, before I go on to Nathalia, I'm going to encourage all the participants. We have 61 of you on this call. If you have any questions for the panelists, please start putting it up on the chat window so that they can be prepared. And I strongly encourage you to challenge us, because we don't have all the answers. Maybe you have some, but if you ask us the right question, maybe we can have a great debate today. Nathalia, thank you so much for joining us. And your company, again, has a very unique approach using technology, financial planning, and literacy. Tell us a little bit about your company, as well as how do you measure impact, particularly using technology?
It's a pleasure to be here. Nice to meet you all. So my company, Poupe, it's very funny to hear in another language, not Portuguese. And Poupe means spare me. It's like a tricky language we use, and it has two meanings also in Portuguese, which one of this is like spare me, like save money. And the other way is like, oh, come on. So Poupe has two meanings. And that's when I first started this company, I was alone. It was only me, myself, and a wood spoon to make the focus on the camera. So that's how I started 6 years ago. And first of all, I really believe that most important than measure impact is really have the impact as the main drive of our company. So the profit, the other numbers, we really need to track this to make sure we are having the impact we want to have. But the main number is the number of people we can reach every day. And now Poupe has like something like 25 million people we are talking every month in Brazil. And that's the most important number of all. After that, we start to deep diving in the numbers and the tracking. And how do we do this? The data obtained through partner platforms such YouTube, where we have 6.5 million subscribers, Instagram with another 5 million, and our property networks provide strong analytics and insights to create content and product capable of deepening impact. In addition to big data systems, we run quantitative and qualitative researches with our more than 70,000 students to ensure that our methodology is really changing the financial reality of our students for the better, generating the impact we desire, which is social economic sustainability of our students. And I really believe when you change one person, you can also impact and change everybody around them. You know, it's like a halo effect. I really believe this. So among our students, 94% say they finished the course with a defined plan to pay their debts. 35% of them reduced the amount of during the course. 86% finished the course with organized finance and up-to-date accounts. Almost 70% finished the course with an emergency fund of at least 6 months, and 92% say they now have extra money and at the end of the month. For a Brazilian reality, this is a very powerful numbers. So to the next years, we are planning to raise these numbers using more technology in an open finance platform.
Nathalia, fascinating how these numbers just roll out for you. I think the biggest advantage is that you use technology for not just gathering data, and I hear you that you're also being careful about measuring both the quantitative and the qualitative elements. That's really fantastic. I think that's a big take home for us, that when you have something of a technology tool, you're really sitting on gold mine of data. I'm going to roll back to Amy. Amy, your business, I wouldn't assume, but is not as on a technology platform like Nathalia's is. So does it mean you have to collect your own data and analyze it, or the people who you fund or the businesses you fund, you make it important for them to collect it and report to themselves and you?
So it's a fantastic question, Shiv, and I was just really listening hard to what Nathalia just said, because I'm a massive believer in technology facilitating the change that's required in terms of how we manage and disclose the type of performance that we're able to achieve as businesses, and then obviously longer term to be able to sort of do the trend analysis, and then also the work to understand, as Nathalia and Juliet were both talking about, and Ashok as well, the outcomes and the impact. We actually do have quite a lot of technology in our business, believe it or not, partly because we have got data coming at us from kind of left, right, and center. There is a lot of data in the marketplace, both quant and qual, and it can become really challenging trying to manipulate that and trying to work with it to do two things. First and foremost is to understand what the data is telling you. The second one is actually to understand what the data isn't telling you. And that is as important as what the data is telling you. Where are the gaps? We have, as I've said, we've got lots of different data sources coming in, and then we're using machine learning to do some of the heavy lifting of that for us so that we can really zero in and understand which are the best businesses. We also are now starting to use artificial intelligence to go out and find our own data, using AI to source publicly available data sources across many different sources so that we can plug, as I said, some of those data gaps. But I think Nathalia's, there's something that she said that is so critically important here when you're thinking about impact management and impact measurement. A lot of companies struggle to understand the impact of their products with their end sort of, users. because these are big, in public markets, for example, a lot of these businesses are big businesses, and they just they haven't built that sophistication into understanding the impact that their product has when it's out in the marketplace. Smaller mission-driven businesses like Nathalia's, like Juliet's, like Ashok's, like ours, actually code impact in from the word go. So we know what we're looking for, and as a result, we're able to identify that up front with the types of interventions that we're then looking to support or looking to roll out, which can make, I think, ultimately the thorny issue of trying to manage data and then measure and disclose. It can make it easier. Doesn't make it easy, but it can make it easier. Right. But Natalia's spot on. I mean, technology enables you to create touch points where you can follow up with the people who are using your product and see what changes have been made. No other currency on this planet does it as well as technology.
Right. I think what I hear you say is, when you're intentionally impactful, it's different from having an intention to impact. Right? Because then you need to collect a lot of data, which is the point Ray is making. You need to then think about, what do I need to collect? Who do I need to collect it from? But if your business is set up, Nathalia, like you have done, very clearly focused on an impactful audience, and then you collect the right amount of data, and you collect both quantitative and qualitative. And as Amy is saying, not as an afterthought, but central to your mission, then you are going to be having a far more richer information. And Amy, I hear you say that you should also be clear what it's not telling you, because data always doesn't speak. People speak, right? Mm-hmm. And Amy, it's really interesting. You said you use AI. I had this really interesting definition of AI when somebody asked them, what does AI stand for? And the head of Microsoft said, it's the opposite of natural stupidity. Maybe more companies do need to use machine learning and AI, but of course, with all the cautions that you put out there. And Nathalia, I want to come back to one point you made, a beautiful point about the ripple effect, right? You're not just creating an impact on one person or a household. I want to come back to that. And Ashok, I want to go back to this counterfactual argument between two farmers who have an insurance, who doesn't have an insurance, who are very similar otherwise. Have you measured those kind of differentials?
Yes. What happens is that the aggregators that we work with would want to make sure that the farmers appreciate the amount of covers that they can get through the insurance company. Now, what has happened is that you will find that these aggregators will have one farmer that they are supporting and the another farmer that's not supporting. Now, all this in Kenya, most of the planting is rain-fed. All the agriculture is rain-fed. So what happens is that when the rains do not come, then the farmer that both the farmers will suffer. But what will happen is that the farmer that has got cover through the aggregator or directly from us will obviously be able to pay for their loans and also get the yield, because we provide up to 70% of the yield as a guarantee. So they would get some money in their hands to go and buy for next season's farming. Now, so what we have found out is that the farmers gradually start, when they know that one is not covered, they start looking at the one that is covered, and then they start see how they can benefit from it. But that's a very slow. In fact, it's not really that fast a move. So what we need to do is we encourage. The way is when there is a payout that we have to make, we will go and tell the farmers that we have paid out to these farmers and they have benefited from insurance, so that the next season, the other farmers will also come in. So sure. The idea is that we will encourage more and more farmers to start thinking of insurance and taking it up.
Correct.
So the numbers gradually start going up in that particular area.
Right. Through a demonstration effect of what others have felt as impact. Great.
Right, yes.
Juliet, I'm going to put one question which has come from Clarke, whose audience, whose question is a great one. The question is, how do you measure well-being and success and empowerment of minority youth? Right. I don't know whether some of your work is not only with differently able people, but also minority communities. If so, would you like to throw some light on this question? How do we go about measuring well-being, success, and empowerment?
Thank you so much. What I didn't talk about previously about the impact measurement, the good thing, the question has come back to me. So when we are done training the disabled, as I said, we employ them. So after employing them, they create their own employment out of the salaries they earn from Kimuli Fashionability. And then our goal is to see that they train people who are like them in their communities. So we have a mode of trainers of trainers. So that's one of the data that we track about the empowerment of the communities, of the people that we work with. We not only work with the disabled persons who work as tailors, but also the waste collectors and the other marginalized women who sort, wash the waste. So it's the same model that we apply, and that's where we see how it's really working, and the data is being collected, and where you see that our visions are really, our goals are really moving on well. So right. Our goal is we not only want to train only the number of people that we are thinking about, but always to increase on the numbers year per year, such that by the year that we targeted, like having a vision of in 2025 of, the vision that we have in 2025, we want to have fulfilled it basing on the data, the impact that currently we are creating.
Right. Juliet, do you have any problems in collecting data on impact? Is that a problem for you? Is there any impediments you face?
Yes, kinda, especially in the waste collection, and also in the well-being of our people in our communities. As I told you that you can can have a goal of training 500 people in a year, and then you would want the 500 people to be impacted, and you have all that data when you measure it, but you end up when you've not really succeeded in all the numbers that you planned to really impact. Why? Most times it's due to capital, since our project is kind of growing, due to lack of sewing machines when it comes to skills training, right. And a lot of challenge. It's more of lack of capital and skills labor too, because due to lack of capital and funding.
Right. Right. Yeah. Measuring impact is, not a non-cheap business. It's sometimes quite expensive. And, I think, Nathalia, I'm going to go back to that excellent point you made on the ripple effect. Do you measure the ripple effect? I mean, it's fascinating. We do gender-based violence training, and we used to measure that impact on the women we were doing it with, and at best of family. And we were really foolish, because when we took a more open-ended approach, we found she was actually impacting the entire community in terms of what, the agency that she acquired. So if you can throw some light on the ripple effect, and also, if you don't mind, if you're measuring anything on well-being, success, and empowerment of minority youth, particularly within your services. Over to you, Nathalia.
Thank you. Well, this is not easy to measure, like this halo effect. So we try to pick some data, some numbers to track it, like how many shares did we have? Our engagement is raising or is getting down. And the main number, and we also use the AI to do this. We have a very good team of specialists in data analysis and scientists data. So we know when someone shares something to their family, to their co-workers, it shows the trust they have in their content, and that it's saying that, okay, I trust this content, I trust this product, so you can use it too. So this is just one way we use to measure like this halo impact. Another way, but we are trying to make this more specific, is data from outside. I will try to explain this. So we have here in Brazil, and we have all over the world, our, how do you say, como fala, Paty, Bolsa de Valores? Stock market. Our stock market. So since Me Poupe started in 2016, we measure like, okay, how many people do we have in our base inside here, and how many people it's getting inside the stock market. So we can see they have the same growing line. Do you understand what I mean? And the most important of all is the number of women investing their own money, because Me Poupe put something in this market that doesn't exist before we arrived here, that is put the power of financial literacy and the money in women's hands. Yes. So when we see the number of women entering in stock market and the number of women following Me Poupe, we can say they are matched. So we can see the numbers raising together, and we have numbers inside the stock market that says, okay, Me Poupe has changed the financial market in Brazil. So we still don't have how to measure the impact of all our base. We really have how to measure our clients, which is 80,000 students. So we don't have how to measure yet everybody in the base, which is like 25 million people.
Right. I think on the 25 million people, Nathalia, there's a question for you from Jonas. What's the biggest impediment for the people in Brazil to be included in the financial system? Financial inclusion. You're changing it in some ways.
Yeah. I worked a lot in behavior economics, because I have this feeling that the behavior of people make them stop or start working in their finances. So that's why I study a lot this field of financial behavior and choices, architecture, and everything like this. So I don't think it's only in Brazil, but it's all over the world. The beliefs of people really stuck them in their places, you know. So you have to change the beliefs so people can change their behavior, so they can change their financial lives.
Right. Thank you. I'm going to ask a quick question, a 30-second answer from each of you. If there's one thing you want to change in the way you measure impact, what would that be? Amy, I'm sorry.
I knew you were going to come to me, and I was just like, oh, crikey.
I'm sorry, you're first in the line.
I know.
You can give it a pass. I can go to Ashok if you want.
No, it's fine. If there was one thing I was going to change, it's specific to kind of, obviously, I like the title, I inhabit the finance sort of system. I'm sort of right in the heart of the finance system doing what I do, which is an entirely different conversation in terms of how interesting that is. But if I'm thinking about impact management and disclosure kind of at a system level, not just about what we do, the one thing that I would really love to see happen really quickly, and I think this will happen with things like the International Sustainability Standards Board, that was one of the big developments that came out of the Glasgow Climate Pact. I hope it will anyway, is for people to understand the difference between input, output, outcome, impact. Because at the moment we have got a lot of people claiming impact, and the Joe public isn't necessarily well informed to know whether that's an impact measure or whether it's not. And also there's precious little verification of the impact data that's being put out there. So I would say we've got to be clear about what we're reporting, and we've got to make sure that it's anchored in robustness and integrity by having it third party attested somehow. Right.
And one of the things I've been pushing for is sector level impact indicators so that we don't need to reinvent them. Ashok, what would you be changing in terms of how you measure and use impact?
Well, the way we would like to see is that how are we impacting the livelihood of the farmer? How are they growing how are they improving their lives, and how are they able to sustain themselves? Because at the end of the day, sustainability is perhaps the main area that we have to concentrate on. So if we can measure the farmers over the years, the farmers can start, show. And it's one thing that we must remember is in Kenya, the majority of the farmers will be women, because the men are working in towns and cities and so on. So it's the women who are actually doing the farming. So if we can assist them, by making sure that their livelihood is improving, they can they can improve their state, they can improve themselves, then it will make a lot of difference. So that is where we would like to look at that.
So we would like to look at improvement of livelihood, not just the insurance part. Excellent. Right. Juliet, what would you change in your impact measurement?
Thank you so much. I would totally also look or copy from Amy's suggestion. So most entrepreneurs are always disturbed by these three terms, impact, input, output. So we always mess and get so organized with the three words. So we really need to look into depth in understanding these three terms, because you may think that you're really putting in, or you're doing the outcome in real sense when you're doing the inputs. But what are the outcomes out of the impact that you've created? Have people really gotten the differences that you want them to get? Have they improved on their standards of living? When we talk of our beneficiaries, we have three categories. Those are persons with disabilities. We do employ and empower marginalized women from rural communities. The marginalized youths from urban and rural communities of Uganda, have they really, their lives, have they really made a difference, So that is one of the things from Kimuli Fashionability that really want to tackle, especially looking at the outputs. But the output, have we really measured the impact well? Have really made great impact into the people that we have been impacting over the year? Because the most impact that we would want these people to really see themselves is their lives being improved. They can be on their own even without Kimuli Fashionability.
Thank you, Juliet. I was just wondering how many times we used the word impact, if you could have counted it. But Nathalia, I'm sorry, we'll really run out of time. My apologies, I can't roll back the last question to you. Thank you so much, my fellow panelists. Lots to learn and lots to discuss. Tom, over to you. Thank you for the delightful role to me.
Thank you, Shiv. And thank you, Amy, Ashok, Juliet, and Nathalia. That was such a brilliant way to end the day. And with that does bring today's forum to a close. Thank you to all of our moderators, speakers, MB100 winners from around the world, and everyone for tuning in. We hope you found the discussions useful. There was so much in there, and we really hope you can take at least something away to build into your own businesses. We'll be in touch with the recordings of each session next week, and this is just the first event and touch point for this year's MB100 program. So we'll be back early next year. Enjoy the rest of your day and keep safe and well. Thank you.